Namaste friends, I am Lakshmi Ravichandran signing in on behalf of Magic Needles. I am here again with yet another cal, and it's going to be the summer top cal with this beautiful circular motif in front, and this is how it's going to look. This is done with 4-ply cotton from Magic Needles, their in-house production, and a 3.5 mm hook has been used to make this. You can go up to 3.75 mm. What I'm going to demonstrate is going to be with 3.75 mm hook and 4-ply cotton variegated one. This has been done in solid color. I'm going to use variegated and show you how to go about this, and the instructions will be given week after week. Let's go into the cal. Let's start with the pattern. To begin with, you can either start with a magic ring or chain 6 and make a circle and go ahead. So I'm going to begin with a magic circle or a magic ring. So to make one, place your tail end like this, cross it over, take the yarn from underneath, pick this up, bring it out. So your magic ring is made. So they should move and make the circle big or small. You can place the first double crochet as either chain 3 or a standing double crochet. I generally make the standing double crochet here, like straight away a double crochet. I do it. It's twisted double crochet. So first one is made. You have to make 15 more. So totally we require 16 double crochets in the magic ring. So maintain the same tension. So I'll make total of 16 double crochets in this magic ring and get back to you. I have placed 16 double crochets in the magic ring, so I'm going to tighten it a little bit and then slip stitch and join to the first double crochet here. Pick up the loop. This V you find out. Insert your hook in the back loop of the V, both front and the back loop of the V. Sorry, it has gone somewhere. Yeah, pull out and pull through. Having done this, so this second round we are going to work in the same direction, this direction itself, but from third round onwards we are going to work forward and backwards. Like we are going to reverse, turn and work, place our work so that we get a proper neckline. Okay, so you can chain 3, plus 1 chain, 1 DC in the next DC, chain 1, 1 DC in the next DC. Here we are going to have 15 DCs and 14 chain 1 spaces. Chain 1, chain 1 DC, chain 1 DC is your repeat here, and we are going to place DCs on every DC of the first round. Each DC is separated by 1 chain space. I will meet you at the end of this round. We've come to the end of this second round, and we're not placing a DC on the last DC of the first round, that is the 16th one. We're not placing any DC, and now we're going to turn our work, turn like a page, chain 3, and this chain 3 will count as the first DC, and you're going to work DC on every DC with chain 2 spaces separating them. So we have made the first DC in form of chain 3, chain 2, place your DC here, and henceforth we will turn our work and work each row after row. Chain 2 again here, 1 DC in the next DC. So here again in this round you'll have 15 DCs separated by 2 chain spaces. So I will show you once more. Chain 2, DC on next DC, and continue till the end of this row, and the last DC you will place on the third chain of this first 3 chain here. I've placed my last DC here. Now turn your work. Chain 3, it's going to count as the first DC. Then place 3 DCs in the chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3 DC here, 1 DC on DC. So every chain 2 space is going to have 3 DCs, and each DC is going to have 1 DC on it. Okay, 3 DCs in chain 2 space. One DC here on the DC. So this is a repeat here. Every chain 2 space in this row will have 3 DCs, and each of the DCs of the previous row will have 1 DC placed on it. So I shall meet you at the end of this particular point. Okay. Don't forget to place your last DC on the third chain of the previous round. So here in this round you will have 3 DCs in each of the 14 spaces and 1 DC on each of the 15 DCs of the previous round. So it is going to be 42 plus 15, 47 DCs you will have at the end of this round. Turn your work. Chain 5. Place your DC here in the next one. Chain 2. Skip 1 DC, place your DC on the next DC. Chain 2. Skip 1 DC on next DC. This is going to be the repeat. Chain 2, skip 1 DCs. Chain 2, skip 1 DC. Chain 2, skip 1 DC of the previous row, DC on the next. So this is how it's going to be, and it's a simple repeat. I shall meet you at the end of this round. I'll show you one more time. Chain 2, skip the next DC and place a DC on the following DC. So that is how it's going to work out for this particular row. I have placed my last DC on the last third chain of the first 3 chain here, and in the next round we're going to turn chain 3, chain 3 more, place a DC on DC, and in this row you're going to place DC on every DC separated by 3 chains. Chain 3 DC. It's going to be chain 3 DC, chain 3 DC. You're going to place your DCs on the DCs. So that is how it's going to work out. Chain 3, a DC on the next DC here. So you're going to do the same thing. Chain 3 DC, chain 3 DC, chain 3 DC, chain 3 DC. On every DC you're going to place 1 DC separated by 3 chains. I'll meet you at the end of this particular round at this particular point. Okay. Place your last DC in the third chain of the chain 5 that we did in the last row. Okay. So this is how this will develop. Okay, and this is worked in medium to small size. I am going to do the medium size here. Yeah. Turn your work. or chain 3 and turn your work, however it's comfortable. Chain 3, turn your work. Place 3 DCs in 3 chain space. So that is what we are going to do for the entire row. And then 1 DC on the DC here. 3 DCs in chain 3 space. One DC on DC here. Three DCs in the chain space. So it's going to be 3 DC in chain space, 1 DC on DC, 3 DC in chain space, 1 DC on DC. That is the repeat here. I shall meet you at the end of this particular round, at this particular point. I shall meet you here. Okay, we have come to the end of this row, and we'll stop here for this part 1, and we shall meet in part 2, and we will do the further rows in part 2. Thank you friends for watching. Do subscribe to Magic Needles YouTube channel, and do not forget to hit on the bell icon so that you are notified as and when a new video is uploaded. Thank you friends.